And aloha, Justin TV audience. We're signing on, as always, a little bit early to get the commercials out of the way before we connect with Republic Broadcasting, which should be happening in just a couple of minutes here. So stay with us, and we'll plow through today. Any minute. Now, they've been cutting it pretty close the last couple of days, so we'll probably get it just 10 seconds before airtime yet again. And coming up 1 minute. Yeah, here we are. Any second now. Any second now.
Okay. Whether you purchase precious metals to stabilize your portfolio or you're looking for strong growth, gold and silver will provide you with both. Don't you owe it to yourself to do business with Republic Trading Group? Call us today and become a part of the Raging Bull in gold and silver. 1-800-691-7898. That's 1-800-691-7898. Call now. 1-800-691-7898.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, April 7th, 2011 here, getting to the end of the week. Sure happy it's Thursday. And as you can tell from my voice, I'm still fighting this flu bug. Everybody seems to have it out here. And we do know that not too long ago, the United States Navy was actually testing a submarine-launched biological weapons system here in Hawaii. They love to test things here in Hawaii because if they make a really bad mistake, they figure, it's just a bunch of islands in the middle of the ocean. Won't get back and wreck the rest of the country. So I wonder if they're testing something again. Because they'll shower the population with something, and then they go to the health department records a month later and see how many people called in sick and from where, and that's how they score these things. There was a rather embarrassing situation many years ago in San Francisco where the biological weapons people sprayed San Francisco with what they thought was a harmless bacteria, and it turned out to be a little bit more serious than they were expecting, and that there were a few people who actually died from this thing. Whoopsie, gosh darn it, but it is legal for the U.S. government to carry out biological weapons tests on the population here. All right, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Our phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, 800-313-9443. Matt's in the control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And I guess probably the big story right now is there's been another major aftershock near Honshu, Japan. It was originally a 7.4, and now they've sort of downgraded it to 7.1, but it was close to shore, and it was pretty big, and it knocked out a bunch of power stations. They're just now getting the sun up there over Japan to find out what's really going on. But a couple of power stations that were working were shut down. There's a spectacular video from a camera that was going at the time of the quake, and you can see in the distance power lines arcing and what appears to be a really big power station transformer just lighting up the sky and doing all kinds of stuff like that. We're getting the usual assurances, no damage, no radiation, everything's just fine and hunky-dory, but we know from past tragic track record that we want to wait and see for ourselves what's going on here. We do know that this 7.1 aftershock did knock out cooling at the Onagawa Nuclear Power Station. They've just announced they got that back up and running on backup generators. Apparently, the grid in that part of Japan has been knocked down again, so they're just dealing with that whole situation. Over in France, they're detecting radioisotopes in rainwater and milk. So this thing really has spread all over the northern hemisphere at this particular time. Now, remember 2 weeks ago we had reports from Japan that reactor number 2 had burned through its pressure vessel and its containment and was pooling this radioactive slag on the floor of the building. And yesterday morning we had a U.S. Congressman talking about that. Then the Nuclear Regulatory Commission here in the United States said, no, that's not, we don't know that for a fact. And this morning they've pulled back off of that and said, yeah, it is. It melted through the reactor pressure vessel, and that's not a good thing over there. Now, despite all the ballyhoo and brouhaha, if you will, about successfully plugging that 1 8-inch leak that they found, and they plugged it with sawdust and newspapers and the gel from baby diapers and just all kinds of, shoot from the hip, improvising things. And they got it plugged and they said, huzzah, huzzah. Tests since then are showing that there is still just as much radiation leaking out of the reactor into the ocean. So that wasn't the only leak. And it was kind of a stretch to say that, we are only dealing with one leak in 4 reactors, actually 6, because now 5 and 6 are developing problems. That there's only going to be one source of leaking radiation into the ocean. That was a bit of a leap of faith, and it turned out not to be justified. So there are other leaks they're trying to find. And, of course, over and above that, there are all the gallons and gallons of highly radioactive wastewater that's just being dumped in the ocean because they don't know what else to do with it. So situation continues to go on there. Now, yesterday, actually, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Estrogen dominance, a brand new 20th century disease, a phrase coined by Dr. John R. Lee 35 years ago. Dr. Lee proved that all the estrogen that is coming from food and water is having a devastating effect on our health. The rapid rise in breast cancer, uterine cancer, prostate cancer, weight gain, osteoporosis, feminizing of our boys, and early puberty of our girls, and also the destruction of natural killer cell function. Natural killer cells are our only protection from cancer and viral infection. Dr. Lee found that using natural progesterone, about 20 milligrams per day, would not only reverse osteoporosis, but would greatly reduce the cancer issues, as well as dozens of other health challenges we face today. Visit our website, healthlinkamerica.com, to order the DVD on hormone imbalance. Learn how hormone imbalance destroys the immune system, and get started on natural progesterone and Cyto-S. It will not only change your life, it may in fact save your life. Once again, that website is healthlinkamerica.com.
Don't answer it.
If fear strikes your heart when the phone rings, knowing it may be another bill collector, it's time for you to call Zero Debt in 90 days. 800-477-9256. Settlements, bankruptcy, and attorneys are not the answer and may end up costing you up to 10 times more than necessary. Listen, if you're already in debt, does it make sense to get buried in another payment plan? Zero Debt in 90 days gets you out of debt in 90 days guaranteed, without a payment plan and without attorneys or going to court. Get the fastest relief from debt on the planet when you call 800-477-9256. If you have debt with the IRS, credit cards, student loans, or a foreclosure, we can help at Zero Debt in 90 days, and we are the only organization to provide written guarantees on the results. Go to ZeroDebtGuaranteed.com. That's ZeroDebtGuaranteed.com. Or call now for free information. 800-477-9256. That's 800-477-9256.
Attention RBN listeners, the Freeze Dry Guy, providing the finest in long-term storage food since 1970. Today, the U.S. military and the U.S. Submarine Service enjoy using these products extensively. In actual scientific tests, these foods typically maintain their high nutritional value in excess of 30 years. These foods are delicious tasting, hearty, light to carry, and easy to prepare under the most adverse conditions. Unfortunately, many people building a family food storage program, as well as many companies providing emergency feeding programs, simply do not give you enough protein, especially animal protein. No other food satisfies like animal protein during stressful times. If you're a meat eater, you will definitely want our freeze-dried meats and entrees. But we do offer vegetarian items as well. Visit freezedryguide.com or call 866-404-FOOD, 866-404-3663. Freeze Dry Guy.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Here we're still talking about the situation over at Fukushima. Now, yesterday we were talking about this kind of shoot-from-the-hip trick they were going to try of pumping nitrogen into the containment vessel of reactor number 1. This is the one that they believe has had the greatest amount of damage, meltdown damage, inside the core, although it has not reportedly yet breached either the pressure vessel or containment like we're hearing on Reactor 2. But they are seeing this buildup of dangerous hydrogen gas inside the containment. There's a lot of oxygen in there, and if it were to explode, we would see a lot of damage. And they were talking about pumping hydrogen in there to prevent an explosion. And I said, okay. In theory, this would work if you had a very stable environment, a giant space full of hydrogen and oxygen, and you added nitrogen. The nitrogen would settle in between the two and keep the two apart, which you want to do if you want to prevent a hydrogen-oxygen explosion. But this is not a stable environment. You have a reactor core in there putting out a huge amount of heat, and you've got convection currents that are going to keep stirring this thing. So this idea really was kind of cosmetic more than anything else, and I pointed out that if they're not able to vent gas from containment because it's radioactive, otherwise they'd vent the hydrogen, then the only way they can add nitrogen is they're having to pressurize this thing, and sure enough they are. And this containment is now under pressure, and that is kind of a really dangerous thing to do because you're adding stress on an already stressed and damaged structure, and now we have this aftershock. They're taking some very reckless chances. And I understand. What else are they going to do? They got to look like they're doing something. But it is a mess, and it's not going away anytime soon here. For those of you who watch the TV show Top Chef, one of their judges is no longer serving Japanese seafood. It's gone. We told you yesterday about New York restaurants are now starting to buy radiation meters to check Pacific seafood coming in. They don't trust the government. Very wise, these people. And, it's a serious situation here in Hawaii where we have more than the usual degree of dependence on seafood. We're having to be very, very careful. And people are finally starting to say, yeah, we can't take the word of the FDA or the EPA and everything. We've got to get radiation meters and get in here and start taking care of this ourselves. All right, we'll come back to that later on here, but I want to get on to a bunch of other news that we've kind of been neglecting during this whole Fukushima meltdown, explosion, more meltdown, more quakes and everything like this. Had another quake this morning over in Mexico that kind of rattled things over there in Chiapas or that area thereabouts. So we're rocking and rolling. The whole planet's kind of saying, get off me, all of you crazy human beings here. We were talking about this story the other day where a CBS News executive has been accused of being an FBI informant going back for many, many, many years. And everybody's acting like this is a big shock. It isn't. Both the CIA and the FBI routinely infiltrate news media, entertainment. The CIA calls it Operation Mockingbird. The FBI did it as part of COINTELPRO. It's no secret this kind of stuff goes on. Every major TV show that you see in production in the United States, there's at least one FBI informant on that crew to keep an eye on things and make sure the show is not going someplace that the government would not want them to be. And this all goes back to J. Edgar Hoover and his absolute belief that the only reason to even have an entertainment industry is to use it to sell government policy to the serfs. And even before he was head of the FBI, he had a thing for Hollywood, and he was out there